everyone. Ashley May, Mike Beer here, taking a look at a race this Saturday at Delaware Park. They have a stakes-loaded 10-race program. We're going to focus in on race number 8, the Delaware Derby. $200,000 is the purse money, a mile and a 16th on the main track, and a pretty big field here, Mike, of 11 that go into this spot. Now, it's worth noting a lot are cross-entered at Monmouth Park in the Pegasus, but I feel like this is an interesting group where some horses ran very well last time out, or a couple of others maybe they needed the race. They ran okay, but they could obviously take a big step forward in here.
Yeah, it does feel like there's some upside in here too, right? I think there are several horses in here where you just sort of look at them and think, we haven't seen that horse's best race yet. So maybe they'll be able to jump up here and run a better one. I did sort of feel like, the starting point for the race was the 3 Admiral Dennis and the 8 Surfside Moon. They have the credentials and they've already run really well against better horses than this. And I thought they were the natural starting point. We'll see if anybody can, sort of up their game and get to them.
We'll take a look at the time form US pace projection here for the Delaware Derby. And it looks like the 6 Kentucky Outlaw could be the pace setter in here. I'd pretty much agree with that based on 3 of the 4 starts to date, Mike. But the 2 Academy for Graham Motion, he's been forward in a majority of his races as well. And I don't know how quick they're going to go, but I do think the pace will be honest. Do you agree?
Yeah, I do think it can be honest in here. I mean, I won't argue too hard with the pace projector because I think it's pretty hard to figure out where some of these horses are going to be early. And obviously, I think the toughest call is probably the 2 Academy, whose, big win last time came in an off turf race. His other races where he was forward were turf starts where they don't make it go as fast. They're going to go a lot faster in here. We'll see if he can keep up.
And the LP flag is attached to the outside runner, the 11 Omaha, who was 3rd in the Virginia Derby 2 starts back. We'll kick it off with the number 1 Barbadian Runner here for Henry Walters. Was a dominant winner last time out in the Jersey Derby, but it was only a 3-horse field, Mike. And I think you go down the past performances, some of his wins or better performances have been against small fields.
Yeah, it's hard to get excited about him winning that last race off the turf against only 2 other horses. I guess the flip side of that, though, is he's now a 3-time stakes winner on the dirt. Save the race where they tried to cut him all the way back to 6 in April. He's won his last 3 dirt starts. They're all stakes races. The figures, they put him pretty close to being competitive in here, and he's got a great post.
And he was able to beat a couple starts back, actually paid Billy, who won the Federico Tessio, as a win and you're in for the Preakness. The 2 Academy, we'll take a look at that most recent performance. And you said, how do you read it when it's an off-the-turf race? First time on dirt, sloppy conditions, and he just wins for fun here. And, a lot of the times I think the other thing to point out here, Mike, is these fields get decimated. There were 8 other horses in this field, and the way he just strides to the wire, I thought visually was very impressive.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm glad you brought up too that it's not like this field scratched down to nothing after it came off the turf. A bunch of horses fit in, including the runner-up, who was the favorite, who would never run on turf, had some really good dirt form on the page there. And Academy just sort of ran right by that horse and won easily. I don't know what to do with him in here. It feels like he probably now gets bet off the 91 buyer speed figure, and maybe ultimately he will just turn out to be a dirt horse, but he's bred to be a turf horse. I don't know, Ashley. He's the kind of horse I'll wait and see what kind of price he is. I do not want a short price on this horse.
The 3 Admiral Dennis, you mentioned, he's one of the horses that when you look at the names in here, the race kind of you gravitate towards looking towards. He was 4th in the Bluegrass, and I thought all in all, it was a decent effort. I mean, he was able to close. We know East Avenue, what he's gone on to do since then with a nice performance in the Matt win, but he was the pace setter, and I thought the fractions, at least early, gave Admiral Dennis something to run at. My question is, will he get the pace setup that he needs here? I'm not positive on that, but then you look at the race 3 back at the fairgrounds, and I don't know how quick they actually need to go for him.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I feel about it too. But I feel like I don't know what happened to back in the Rebel, where he didn't break that well from the gate. He just got totally outrun in that race. I don't know what happened there, but his other races suggest that he can keep up, even if they don't go that fast in front of him. And ultimately, this is just such huge class relief for this horse. And it's not like he's run poorly against better horses along the way. I mean, I know there's some bad looking lines, but I feel like when I look at him, I can make excuses for his really bad performances. His other races are all pretty good. I think this is a really, really good spot that Brad Cox has found for him here.
The 4 National Law. This is a one that's been sort of into better form, and I think a lot has to do with figuring out what he wants to do. He's a son of Constitution, and since going long on the dirt, he's been 2 for 2 in those last out efforts. Now, I think the one maybe cause for concern, or maybe it's a positive point, is we're finally seeing him in consecutive races, Mike.
Yeah, exactly. Putting races together could be a good sign for this horse. Listen, I can't knock what he's done since they've stretched him out in distance. He's got a little pedigree behind him. He wants to go a distance of ground, and he's improved since they stretched him out. But if they're going to run him in this race right off of those back-to-back wins, he better get a lot faster.
The 5 Sacred Thunder obviously had a ton of trouble last time out in the Federico Tessio, but prior to that was able to get the minor shares in those stakes races at Laurel Park. I guess, he's consistent, Mike. That's a good thing, but I think the one thing that works against him, he's got to face Barbadian Runner, who's potentially face him if he opts for the spot, who typically is getting the better of him.
Yeah, exactly. And Barbadian Runner isn't the horse to beat in this race either. So he's got other horses that he's going to have to get past in this race too. He's one of the horses too. He's very consistent, and the distance probably isn't an issue for him. But we've seen him a lot already. He's already attained a level, it seems like. I'm not sure how much faster I'm expecting this horse to get. And there are horses in this race who are already faster than he is.
The 6th Kentucky Outlaw, we'll take a look at his most recent performance. That was in the Long Branch at Monmouth Park. And, in terms of breaking sharp, he's always been pretty sharp. I think they went a little bit quicker than he's used to in that most recent outing, and he had to rate and then make his move towards the front. And I thought this was a really good effort. Paco Lopez fit him well, as he typically does with these speed horses. And, kind of looking at this performance, obviously he's a talking point, at least from the pace perspective, but he did get a nice figure as well.
Yeah, I mean, I actually like all of his races too. I mean, every one of his starts is a pretty nice performance, and it seems like he's progressing. Even as they've moved him up in class, he's really handled that very well. He's got some pedigree behind him. He's got a trainer who does nothing but win races. He showed last time that he doesn't need the lead if somebody decides to go fast in front of him. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say I love him, Ashley, but I'm not way against this horse.
The 7 La Huligan, this one for Greg Compton at Mag Racing LLC, was able to graduate in that 6th career start that came at Churchill back on May 8th. And this is a horse that I think when you look at his 2 races this year, they're better performances, both in terms of how he's been able to get into a position. I feel like you look at his races last year, and a couple of them, he was way too far back. He's still a closer, Mike, but obviously would need to take a big step forward against this field, who is a little bit more accomplished.
I like that he's at least taken the step up in class now, off of maybe the 2 best races of his life. So it does feel like he's come back a little bit better after a brief freshening. I thought this was probably too tough for him right off of a maiden win, but we'll see what he does.
The 8 Surfside Moon, this one for James Lawrence, was 4th in the Peter Pan last time out, which was won by Hill Road, but a horse that he's been very consistent. And the one thing I like about him in this spot, Mike, is his running style. I know it looks like he maybe is a mid-pack horse, but I think he could be a little bit more handy early if he needs to be. We saw that in the Federico Tessio 2-back, which was a 3rd place performance. And I thought it was an okay effort. It wasn't stellar, but I liked actually his run in the Peter Pan.
Yeah, I kind of feel that way about each of his last 3 starts, where I thought he'd run fine in all those races. I didn't think he had a big excuse in any of them. He just wasn't quite good enough, but those horses were better than the horses he's facing in this spot. This is the right race to kind of run this horse, and I do think he's pretty good. And boy, he's supposed to be really, really tough in this race, I think.
The 9 Pascaline here for our Delacour. Blinkers go on for the first time, and Victor Carrasco has ridden this one in 3 of the 4 starts, listed to ride again. And I wonder if that was sort of feedback that they've taken away from this horse, because he certainly wants to be involved in his races, but I don't feel like he's been as game as you'd want to see in maybe the final 16th of a mile, Mike.
Yeah, I wonder too what his game is ultimately going to be. Is he going to be better going longer, or is he going to be better going shorter? I don't really feel like I have the answer to that question. Watching that race last time, the Long Branch, makes me wonder how far he really wants to go. He's pretty good though.
The 10 Late Night Call is cross-entered because she's a filly in the Delaware Oaks, and curious to see where they'll end up. I mean, neither spot is going to be easy for her. This is going to be a big test.
They should run her in the Oaks.
That's it. That's your feedback, Mike.
But she's not winning this race.
There you go. So we'll move on to the 11 in here. Omaha for Mike Gorham. This one is a horse that was 3rd 2 starts back. And you can see he's a deep closer. I mean, this is a horse that's going to roll from off of it. He'll need a ton of pace help. And Wood Memorial didn't pan out for him at all in there. And Rodriguez was able to be pretty confident on the front end. But if you think the pace is hot, I could see maybe using Omaha underneath at best.
Agreed. He's going to need a fast pace in front of me. Listen, we've already talked about, Admiral Dennis and Surfside Moon facing better horses and now maybe taking a step back in class that works for them. The same applies to Omaha, but this horse just doesn't have any speed at all. He's not my kind of horse.
Be curious to see out of this field of 11 who decides to stay here or go to Monmouth Park for the Pegasus. But time for our top picks here in the Delaware Derby. And similar thought process. We're going to use 3 of the same horses. The 2 Academy, we both use that one underneath. And then the toss-up between the 3 Admiral Dennis and the 8 Surfside Moon. And I guess in your case, Mike, Admiral Dennis has been facing the tougher competition.
Yeah, I guess that was ultimately the tiebreaker for me. You know, as far as Academy goes, I feel like he's going to take too much money for me. Actually, I know he can win here. I just don't want a short price on him. So it left me. It was between the 3 and the 8. It was kind of a coin toss here. I went 3-8.
And I'm going to go to the opposite of that. I like Surfside Moon. Curious to see this one now go cutting back in distance to 1 1/16 miles. I wonder if there'll be a little bit more pace help for him. But I mentioned, I think he's a handy horse that could be a little bit more forward if needed. But I agree with you. It's a toss-up. I think it's the 3 or the 8. One of them, I think, is going to be the winner. 3-8-6-2 for Mike. 8-3-2-9 for me. It's race number 8, Saturday at Delaware Park. It's the Delaware Derby. Good luck.